the years, I've personally witnessed in multiple countries that I've lived in where health and spiritual health are usually intertwined. In today's episode, we're going to discover how spiritual health has actually evolved and assisted physical health. I know many people have many questions. Understand that the information that you're going to be hearing today is specifically created for a specific individual with specific circumstances. And always check with your physical professional before you take anything that we're going to say here today for entertainment or educational purposes to heart. My name is Ali Madawi, and I am super excited to introduce to you an incredible human being, someone that I have had the privilege to watch from afar, but I've gotten to grow and learn about. And today, the story is all about her. Stashia Avery has faced unimaginable hardships, from battling the physical challenges of Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, or EDS, to endure mental breakdowns, spiritual warfare, heartbreaks, and betrayals. EDS, a genetic disorder affecting connective tissues, joints, and skin, was just one of her many challenges. But rather than let her difficulties define her, Stashia turned inward and found solace through her connection to Source, to God, and to the universe. She received divine guidance, which led to the creation of the Ascension Oracle deck, now used to help others on their spiritual journey. Stashia Avery, owner of the Ascension Oracle V, AscensionOracleV.com, is a spiritual guide, chronic illness warrior, and creator of the Ascension Oracle deck. She has transformed her personal struggles into a source of empowerment for others, offering tools and insights to help them navigate their own challenges. Through her deep connection with Source, she teaches others to find the clarity and guidance they seek within themselves. Girls on me, on the dance floor, all eyes on me. Who is he? Man, you better come get your girl dog. All eyes on me, party like a rock star. You can find me in VIP. All eyes on me, yeah, where the girls are. This is how your night should be. All eyes on me, all eyes on the prize. Money supersized, G5 super fly, should be supervised. Do or die, open up your eyes, head to the sky. Keep a mean bad mommy on the side. Make a tsunami, kamikaze on the mind. Spit flow, paparazzi flash shine. Get dough, champagne, Merlot. Cash and tango, in the VIP. Now she wanna touch her ankle. Get low, mueve mami como el dembow. All eyes on me, peeping through the window. Get mine, get yours, believe it or not. In the meantime, I'ma keep my eyes on the top. All eyes on me, drinks on me, girls on me, on the dance floor. All eyes on me, who is he? Man, you better come get your girl dog. All eyes on me, party like a rock star. You can find me in VIP. All eyes on me, yeah, where the girls are. This is how your night should be. Ladies and gentlemen, Ali Madawi in here on a brand new installment of ME Show, your strategic partner. I've been so waiting for this conversation with this incredible superwoman, a hero for many individuals, and I cannot wait because I personally have some questions that I have on my own on a conversation that is so personal, that is so scary for some people who don't even know how to even operate within their own bodies as they're experiencing different things. She has overcome much. She has decided and created this superhero that you're about to meet today. You heard all about her background and her monologue. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm super excited for the very first and not the last, the one and only. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up to the one, the two, and the three. Of course, you are Stashia Jeanette, a.k.a. Ascension. I got to ask about V in a little bit, but we're going to get into it. So first and foremost, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to have you in here with us in our virtual studio. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. Thank you for that grand intro.
If I could do confetti, I would have, but they wouldn't allow me. You're not allowed. It's a fire hazard. You can't do fireworks, no confetti or none of that stuff. But I, with my own spiritual way, just popped a whole lot of confetti for you. So first and foremost, for the many that don't know your story or don't know your background, why don't we just dig into a little bit about your background and where you're coming from and how did you get to the point that we are? And of course, we're going to dive into a beautiful conversation that I cannot wait for the masses to hear about today.
Okay. past, geez, so I guess starting with the health stuff, when I was 14 years old, I got diagnosed with a series of health conditions. First one was Crohn's disease, and then it spiraled into finding out that I had endometriosis, and then a condition called POTS. It's a positional orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and then that comes with dysautonomia. And all of this was, of course, while I was still in pediatrics. Pediatric care is honestly the best care that you'll probably ever have dealing with the healthcare system. But they were phenomenal and pretty much told me then, hey, you've got something really rare going on, and not many people are going to acknowledge it. Not many people are going to give you the answers that you need on this. But what we can tell you is there's an umbrella condition called Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. And most people typically just refer to it as just being double jointed, like really bendy, hypermobile, and that was it. But outside of it, I mean, it includes all of those conditions, and it just really became somewhat of this find the needle in the haystack thing with my health. I mean, just one thing after another. I ended up having multiple surgeries, from dislocations and a lot of trying to get my endometriosis under control, and the Crohn's situation. There was a lot of back and forth on whether or not Crohn's disease was actually even the actual diagnosis that I had. Uh, it just has been an absolute nightmare time after time, year after year. I think it got to the point where every year I had either one or two surgeries for about 8 or 9 years. And it's just, it's just been a mess.
So, first and foremost, how are you even here is probably the question that most people are going to ask, right? To hear that, listen, I mean, I was looking at every single thing that the disease itself and everything that kind of comes along with it is fascinating. That not only you're still standing, you're still walking vertically, and that
Right.
you have such a beautiful energy about you. So, how did the whole experience from, I mean, talk about pediatric age till now create or develop your belief system?
Mm. I think it pretty much stemmed from me having nobody on the external physical world that I could talk to about what I was going through. I mean, even before I got sick, I would say at age 4, I became kind of what I am right now to everyone around me. Like I was I hate to say it this way, but like I was the adult to everyone at a really young age. I was the therapist. I was the doctor. I was the lawyer. I was the mediator. I was the peacekeeper. I was the glue. And all while being in a kid body, like I said, at 4 years old, and while dealing with a lot of home stuff, parents getting divorced, and it just being kind of like a war zone at home. I I didn't have anybody other than God, source, universe, and I've just always had a really close connection to the divine, because again, that's all I had. And I think one or two things usually happen with people when they go through a really difficult time in their life. You either cling to the divine, you cling to your faith, or you abandon it, because you go through this thing of like, why me? Why have you forsaken me? And why are you doing this to me? And this whole spiral of woe is me things. And uh, we get angry and we get bitter, and it just kind of just takes your faith from you. And I've seen that happen frequently, but I did the complete opposite. I clung uh, dearly to to the divine, so much so that now, coming out of everything and having to interact more in the physical world is difficult because, again, that's all I had going through, from a young age. But while things continued to start up with my health issues, I every day I just got closer and closer and closer with God Source Universe. And the more kind of really terrible, unfathomable shit that was just thrown at me left and right. I mean, like I said, every year it started off with just having one surgery, and then it's like something would happen within the surgery that would cause other issues, or it just seemed like a domino effect would happen, one thing after another, whenever I would have a surgery, and things would just progressively get worse. And every time I just got closer and closer with the divine.
Yeah.
I just That's just what
I do
that's
have to
just
say, especially one thing that you've mentioned is the being in a physical world, and that's a very specific way of putting it, right? So
yeah.
so how has it been dealing with general population, whether from growing up and school and social life and friends and dating, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And even those who are closer. Sometimes the worst people in our lives are the closest ones to us, right? So
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about how was the experience growing up and dealing with the physical world as you're trying to even not only overcome your pain, but find your own way to figuring out this thing we call life.
I mean, like in a one word nutshell, it was bad. Like it was rough. It was really rough because, again, even from like small age, I knew I was different from other people my age. I've always been different. But then, like, adding the health issues on top of it, like I remember being in high school, I think it was my sophomore year, was when all
That
the
was
health
that
stuff.
was 5 years ago, right? You graduated high school 5 years ago.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Go on.
um, when I was in sophomore year, I started having like excruciating pain when it was like
Mm.
period time, and I was missing a lot of school. And the teachers, number one, they didn't care. Like they just really did not care. I also was like one of 50 Black students at my high school, and
Out
I mean,
of
I hate to
predominantly out of how many?
500.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I mean, I hate to I hate to be that, but like that was literally a factor, for freshman and sophomore year. I was constantly in like ISS, or was in school suspension, or detention because of something that really like I didn't do, but like just stigma, just stigma. So the teachers didn't care, and then even when I started having surgeries and like I had actual excuses to that stuff was going on with me, and they were just like, "Oh, that's unfortunate." And they say that there's this thing of like when you go through the worst times in your life, you realize like who your real friends are. And all the people that like I thought would be there and come visit me while I was in and out the hospital, and like bring me my school notes and help me, like there was none of that. I think I had one friend came and visit me while I was in the hospital, while I was in high school. And outside of that, I mean, when I say it has just been me, you know holding it down. Physically, I've had nobody around me. So like it was there was no long-term boyfriends, there was no long-term friends, uh there was a long period of time where like I wasn't speaking with my dad, and my sister and I weren't really like getting along. So it really was just me, and I live with my mother, so my mom would obviously be there, taking me to appointments and in the hospital whenever she would get off from work and things. But it was just me, and a lot of the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear it in your voice. And how does one, and of course we're gonna dig into a documentary that tells your full story, and we have a snippet that we're gonna show of that as well. Um, but I hear it in your voice, it's as if, how do I say it? It's as if you're still healing through that period of your
Right.
life, or have
Yeah.
you healed? I mean, is it a process? Is it a done, like
No,
you achieve it? Like, talk to me about that healing process from that period.
no, like, I mean, it's always gonna be something that kinda, like, makes you teary-eyed and watery, of, like, because that it sucks. Those are, like, formative years of your life that I mean, when I say that, like, my health took essentially all of my life, like, teen years and then 20s, I mean, it's a real thing. There was a lot that I just could not do. Sorry.
Nah, you're good. This is why you have Chiron.
Yeah.
I
But
still have, I intentionally did not Google who that is until we talk about it here, because I think it's gonna be such a beautiful conversation for you to educate me in front of everybody in real time.
Chiron.
Tyron, okay, yeah, you're gonna have to explain to me why you call me that. I didn't wanna put it in front of everybody in here. I want to wait until you educate me on. But look, first and foremost, I love your happy tears. Um, I do, because tears are essentially a hormone that the brain releases. They're stress hormone, and I appreciate that you're having a moment where you're feeling it
Right.
right now. So, but yeah, so let's, again, we're gonna dig so much more into your story and the documentary and so much more. Um, I would love to ask, if I may, in terms of your health journey, if we will, living with Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, or EDS. Can
Mhm.
you describe, you know, best to worst case scenario for the average listener who does not know? And the reason I'm asking, because you may be somebody who's going through it, and the reason I want you to educate on it, so we can help somebody who may be around us with that, so you can help avoid the next student in some school right now that may be going through what you've gone through. And at the
Right.
same exact time, so we can bring awareness about this terrible disease, and potentially, show whomever is going through it that you too can get out of it. So,
Right.
if you don't mind, talk to us about that initial diagnosis, and what it felt like to kind of receive that news when you did.
So getting diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is an incredibly long process, and honestly, the average time that a person gets diagnosed, like on paper diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, is a minimum of 25 years. Minimum 25 and maximum of 40. So essentially, people will go their entire lifetime getting misdiagnosed like I have before they finally come to a solution, before they finally come to the conclusion that, oh, hey, like this might actually be the actual thing that has been causing everything else, and I think one of the and again, last year was the year that I finally realized. 2 years ago, when I made the documentary, I got little snippets and clues that, "Hey, this has been the thing the entire time," but up until that point, literally, it was like a non-existent thing because doctors just wouldn't acknowledge it for what it actually is, how big of a serious, rare disease it is, and, it if I could tell anybody right now a piece of information that would help them out, it is absolutely to advocate frequently and say, hey, can we check into Ehlers Danlos? Hey, is it possible that I might have Ehlers Danlos syndrome? Because these things fall into it. But I got a lot of my information from being in kind of like health groups. The Ehlers Danlos Syndrome has an actual website that you can go on to the Ehlers Danlos community, and go onto their website, and there's like a whole plethora of it's like a database that you can type in and find providers who are actually certified and educated in Ehlers-Danlos, everything Ehlers-Danlos, or if you need a specific cardiologist that is Ehlers-Danlos certified, you can find it there on their website. And if you need, a neurologist that's Ehlers-Danlos certified, like the database has that. And so that's what I ended up doing, was going on to the Ehlers Danlos webpage and doing a whole bunch of digging, a whole bunch of searching, a whole bunch of, I spent months upon months going through their website and speaking with some of their advocates and representatives, and just trying to piece everything together. And it was shocking, honestly, to find out the entire time that this was what was going on. Even more so because my little 14-year-old me, again, remember the pediatric people were like, hey, I think this is a thing. But once I got into the adult world, nobody listened. Literally no one listened. So it's like, I was constantly telling doctors, I'm pretty sure it's Ehlers-Danlos, and everything that you're telling me that I'm too young to have, I can have because I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And they would just be like, that's not a thing. So we're just not, also, why would we listen to you? You're like 18 years old and we have the documentation. We have the degree. We know what we're doing. Right. And it honestly, like I was super pissed off, like more than anything. I was very pissed off to find out that every single thing that I brought to these doctors' attention, and they shot me down repetitively, gaslit me, and was like, you're too young for that. You're too young. We're not checking for that because you're too young. You're too young to have that. You're too young for that. You're too young for endometriosis. You're too young to have gastroparesis. You're too young to have X, Y, and Z. And every single one of those things fell under the Ehlers-Danlos umbrella. Every single one of them. And there's so much research and studies out there that providers could just easily look up and say like, oh, this is a real thing and we should probably check. But no. So
you would think it's such a GED thing to look into. I mean, for how painful, how terrible of an experience, you would think any like very basic doctor would be like, yeah, that's one of the things that we got to look into. Why do you think there's such a pushback on it? Or at least forget pushback. I don't think people are bad or trying to push back on something so serious, but why isn't it not taken as seriously as it should be as a freaking, flu shot?
And I think it starts from the fact of, in a lot of the older doctors, like just the older doctors, they weren't taught about Ehlers-Danlos. Like it wasn't a thing that was going on when they were in school. And I think the importance of having continued education as a healthcare provider should be super mandatory no matter what field you're in, because every year there's a new discovery, there's something new, right? And you should be trying to stay up to date on it. But I think that's a huge component to it. But outside of that, the ones that do know about it, and again, still mostly from what I've experienced thus far, I can only speak from my personal experience, but still the older doctors are still thinking that it's just that you're double jointed. Oh, you're bendy. That's all it is. Like that's That's just what
So
they think.
let's stick with that for a second, because you said something that you, for all the viewers, you do realize I am extremely double jointed. Like, I mean, my fingers go all the way to like back
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So does this mean anything to you to see me do what I'm doing right now?
Yeah.
Rich, my CPU,
Does
start
your
to hard.
elbow go in?
Oh, I can show you some crazy tricks. I do it all. I mean, everything touches, and my feet. If I were to stand, I can have my toes of my right foot facing back this way, my toes of my left foot facing that way, right next to each other.
Yeah, you probably have hypermobility, and
Yeah,
that's a thing. Not only that, but you also should look into it and see the things that go along with Ehlers Danlos syndrome. Like, you would be amazed. It's a real thing, and people want to, like, doctors and people alike will downplay the shit out of this, talking about, like, oh, you're just bendy. Oh, you're good at yoga and gymnastics. Like, you should use that to your advantage. Like, nah, man, do you know how many surgeries I've had to have to restabilize my joints because of frequent dislocations?
literally.
Like when I was in school, my poor mom, like I said, my parents were divorced, but like my poor mom, I know that she got tired of getting the calls from the school, like, because I would always come in bruised, like, because we bruise easily. And something, I was always in a cast or a splint, and it's because, like, I was really active. I was a super, super athlete, really young. I mean, I was always doing something, but again, also I didn't know that this was a thing, but I was frequently dislocating stuff and getting hurt and and coming into school like on crutches, hobbling along, or like I said, in a cast or a splint from just but I think more than anything, that's the biggest thing that we're up against in the healthcare community. Like I said, just from my personal experience with the older physicians, because they, and it's also really difficult for them to be like, yeah, I was wrong. This was wrong. This was not you. Yeah, I was wrong
So
here.
I gotta ask. I mean, the medical community did what it could have done or didn't do. So how did you cope with the process? Like, this is the question on everybody's mind. Like, all right, you guys milked the clock enough. How did you get yourself to the healthy side where you are in life right now? What are some of the things that you can share with us? And I know we're going to need a full seminar to kind of go through it all, but if you can give us the high pointers of, here is what you would want to do based on your experience. Of course, everybody's got to check with their own physicians, but what would you share with us that you have done with your own personal circumstance?
Yeah, the biggest thing was absolutely, and again, it mixes in with having my really close relationship with the divine, and listening to the guidance that I was getting. But speaking from my own personal experience here, I notice, I mean, I'm very observant on all levels, but I kept note, and I noticed, and I had a personal health log, and I encourage everybody to keep a health log and journal. If you start new medications, log it, write it down, write how you're feeling on it and the symptoms, any kind of side effects that you had, everything. Log your stuff, because this is what I did, and this is how I was able to get to this point of saying this decision here. I just decided to stop taking a lot of the medication that I was on, because what was happening was, there's like a medical term for it, and I don't remember what it is at this point in time, but it's essentially where you're on conflicting medications, right? And the issue that I had been dealing with frequently was none of the doctors with the treatment options, and then also on top of it, nobody was checking like the medications that I was already on before putting me on other medications. So it was just like a hodgepodge of conflicting medications that their side effects were causing more issues. And it was so bad. I think at one point I showed it in the documentary where I literally was holding like a bag of all the medicine. It was like 25 pills I was taking every day. It was insane. And I just was getting worse and worse and worse and worse because of all the conflicting medications. And instead of any of the doctors being like, let's just try to take you off this, let's try removing this, let's try removing this, they just were like, let's add something else. So I took it upon myself, because nobody was offering that up, to be like, since nobody can get on the same page, I'm going to stop taking this, and then let's just see what happens. Because now y'all are playing with my life like massively, and I'm just getting worse.
And it's like whose truth is true truth? Like you're supposed to be a decorated doctor that I'm supposed to trust in your process.
Right.
And look, not everybody's bad in everything that is out there, but
No.
it rocks your core, you know? So what do we do this? We're going to take a little break. When we do come back, we're going to dive into faith in the face of adversity. And we're going to also show a little snippet of your documentary. And I cannot wait to dive into that as well. We'll be right back.
Hey, my name is Stashia, and I help people access their highest self, purpose, destiny, and timeline through transmuting their negative energy and experiences into positive ones. And if this sounds like something that could help you out or that you might be interested in, you can learn more about me and book a session at ascensionoracleb.com. I'll see you there. And I help people transmute their negative energy and experiences into something really positive and beautiful. Sometimes we just experience a lot of really negative, dark things in life that kind of keep us stuck. And then we go through things that can't be explained by a regular therapist, a doctor, a priest, a pastor. And that's kind of where I come in to fill the gaps and give you that clarity and guidance as to what's happening to you through this ascension process, a spiritual awakening that we call it. So if this is something that you are going through or that you're experiencing or would like to learn more about, you can visit my website at ascensionoracleb.com to learn more and book a session with me. I'll see you there. B Squad. There's a lot of speculation as of what is the primary source of my health problems. And I think that is a large contribution to why it has been now, it's almost 16 years and I'm still struggling. No one can agree on one thing. A lot of people keep pointing the fingers at the Crohn's disease, saying because my Crohn's is not very well managed or under control, that it is causing essentially everything else to be out of whack and cause me to have other additional health problems, symptoms, occurrences.
That must, I mean, I can hear the frustration through your voice in that documentary. First and foremost, welcome back, everybody. We're here with Stashia as she is gracing us with her gift of life and how she turned her life around in many ways with an incredibly annoying disease, for the lack of better words, EDS. And she's not only educating us on it, but she's giving us some pointers on what she's done with her life to find her happy place. And of course, how she's helping individuals across the nation doing exactly just that. So Stashia, welcome back. Let's talk about that snippet of the documentary. Do you remember that day on the documentary? Because you sounded a little bit frustrated at the lack of process.
Yeah, and it's funny because when it premiered not long ago, I I was watching it on the big screen and I was like, "Ooh, you could feel the anger was definitely there," because it's super frustrating. I mean, it's frustrating now, but that day while I was filming the documentary, I mean, I was seething, and not only that, but like I feel like I was just channeling the anger of not only me but everybody else within this healthcare community that is struggling with this exact same thing, that have come before me and that will come after me, right? And then also the the spirit squad, who was just as pissed off and more pissed off about me having gone through it. So it was a lot of fire that
What do
day.
you what do you mean by that? I need you to kind of when you say the spirit squad was more pissed off as the fact that you've gone through that. What do you mean?
Yeah, so I mean, like there's a whole world that the physical eyes are not able to see. We only see a small portion of what actually is happening within our world. The spirit world is very much a real thing. I mean, like, you can believe it or not. I'm not here to convince anybody, but it's a real thing. And like I said, when you've gone through near death experiences or death experiences, in my case, you come back different, and you are very much tethered and connected to the spiritual world. But I came into this world that way. I mean, like, I wasn't breathing for 7 minutes when I came out, and so they had to resuscitate me on the table to bring me back, like, literally from an emergency C-section.
Do you
So
remember anything from that 7 minutes? Like, did you experience anything? Was there this
I
imaginary whole way that we all think, like, my body is separated and I can see everything, or like, share with us if you can
so
remember.
the only thing that I can tell you is that when I I remember seeing a very fast clip, like a very fast vision, like a very fast vision of what my life was going to be like right before, I guess, I was.
Meaning in what it could be like in the future in manifestation form.
No, like, before I was being born, like before they cut my mom open to have the C-section to bring me out. Like, I remember getting the 30-second clip of, hey, this is what your life is about to be like. This is what you're incarnating into. Like, this is what you're being birthed into right now. And essentially it
So this
was
is during that 7 minutes that you were being resuscitated that you
no, this
experienced
was
this.
no, this was like prior to
Wait, hold
me.
on, hold on, hold on. If I'm understanding you right, you're saying at birth you
Correct.
experienced what your life was going to be like.
Right. And I think it's because at this point,
Fascinating. So let me dive a little bit more into that. So based on what you just stated right now, did it turn out to be what that 30-second clip was? Was it
yeah.
better? Was it
No,
like, damn, bro,
no,
I need my money
no,
back?
it's no, it's spot on. It's spot on. And what's even crazier is that, like, I I make the joke now that I aborted mission. I tried to abort mission because I saw in that preview of what the life was that there was some added missions that I did not sign. I did not agree to prior to incarnating here. I was like, wait, this soul contract looks a little lengthy. Like, hey, run that back. I didn't see that part in there. Like, no, 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 no. Like, who added these on here? Like, and really, honestly, I feel like me not breathing, what happened was the umbilical cord got wrapped around. So literally, it was metaphorically like I literally tried to just pull the plug in while I was still
That's
in the
crazy.
while I was still in the womb. And so that's why my mom ended up having to have an emergency C-section, was because apparently the umbilical cord got wrapped around my neck. And when they hooked my mom up to the little heartbeat thing, they're like, oh, snap, her shit's dropping. Like, it was dropping. And in that drop moment where I was life, that was when I was seeing all of the coming life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No. That makes total sense. Now, um, I gotta ask, and again, you can say next question if it's too personal of questions, but what's your relationship with spiritual power? I mean, you believe in God? Do you have a relationship with God or a God? And if so, how do you identify that relationship? Because you've been through so much that you're gonna have a lot of questions as like, yo, where are you? Right. And I know I've
No,
experienced that, and I haven't gone through a tenth of what you've experienced with your health.
yeah, like I said, life here is really difficult for me because, again, I have always been very connected to God, source, universe, and that's just what I call it. is God's source universe. And I had a very strong connection prior to incarnating here, being born here, and even more so, as like I said, as I continued to go through the trials and tribulations, while I was while I was getting my ass whooped in the trenches and the abyss of hell, I just consistently clung more and more to my faith, and that's just been it. So yeah.
No, that's fascinating. How do you deal with individuals, family, community, who don't understand your way of doing things or understanding things or seeing things? And we live in a very interesting days or ages, right? I know I grew up in a predominantly Muslim family,
Right.
and most of us have converted to Christianity back in 2012. And it was a battle. I mean, to kind of always have the, you don't believe in God, how dare you, in your face,
Right.
and it was like, have you dealt with that based on,
Yeah.
again, your belief system? So how did you cope with all of that? And how did you establish a foundation for yourself?
Yeah, so I grew up like in a Christian household. My dad was the one that frequently took me to church all the time, and I started out being more religious, like I said, going to church and all the things, but and I feel like this is gonna, trigger some people, but like it is what it is. But I saw a whole lot of evil while I was in the church. And while I was going through a lot of my health situation, I saw a lot of the people who were, um, again, supposed to be very Christian, treating me the worst. And
Yeah.
I just I couldn't I stopped going to church because I felt like it was like guilty by association. You know what I mean? And
Oh, not only I know what you mean. I'll tell you this. I struggled with organized religion.
religion.
See, the thing is, and I don't think you're triggering anybody. I think there's a lot of people who are listening and watching, and they're nodding like, "Yep, I know exactly what you mean." Some of the worst
Yeah.
people you will find in the church,
Bad.
as much as some of the best people will be found in certain church. What I love about my relationship with Christ, with that superpower that I believe in, is that he stated in spirit and in truth, you no longer need a synagogue, you no longer need a building to do the dog and
This
pony show, right? And I don't mean that
this
in a disrespectful way.
this
Though it may be good to just kind of
right.
be close to the fire, right? Like to be with a community, right? To be with an organization that just may think, feel, and give you a sense of comfort through that roof. But it is not, if you are not here and if you are not doing these
Right.
man created customs, then you are not accepted by God. And
God.
that is
Right.
absolutely far from the truth.
That's
And
not it.
and and that's why I say I don't think there's anybody who you're going to trigger on that aspect, especially nowadays more than ever that people have access to information. People can go online now and I can have a full Bible study in 20 minutes that is a sermon. And just because AI has condensed it to, here is what you need to know for your faith to be stronger. And I totally understand where you are. My wife
But
and I, it was a battle, and not with one another, but together. We had a
together.
hard
Right.
time. I was born in a Muslim country, and I prayed 5 times a day. I went to a mosque. I did all those
Gosh.
different things, and I got beat up most of the time in the mosque.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I can go on and on and on. No disrespect and no offense to any religion, but I believe, and I go to the source, man. Like, hey, who's your boss? I
Yeah.
want to
No.
talk to that person.
No, and that, and I've said this, and I said this frequently. It's weird to me that people feel like when you're going through something difficult, they're like, "Oh, I got to go to the church and talk to my pastor so the pastor can pray for me." Why can you not just pray for yourself? Why do you need a middleman to access God? It's weird to me. Like it's like you're now the pastor has become the God. And like that's not it. That's like we have fallen far
And
off
that's the
the wagon.
man-made side of things,
That's
unfortunately.
it.
Yeah,
That's it.
Dr. Stan Harris, Dr. Stan Harris, aka Dr. Breakthrough. I called him one time, and he's a PhD in ministerial studies, and I just told him straight up, I'm like, look, man, I'm having a hard time. This is a PhD in ministerial studies who travels the country to do high-end congregational teachings and biblical teachings. And I was like, look, I'll tell you what my beef is. From Genesis to Revelation, there's not a single thing that says anything about the Sabbath being kept on a Sunday. And I think that everybody just turned it and just decided to make it what it was. And he goes like, yeah, you're right. I was like, what? Like, so you mean tell me everybody changed it? He's like, yep. I'm like, but
Yeah.
in Revelation 22:18, it states clearly in it that you are not to change a single word of this book. And if you change one single word, you lose eternal life. He's like, yep, you're right.
Yep.
I'm like, so what are you saying? Like, is this all a lie? He goes like, no.
Yes. It's just
He said when Jesus came, he said, y'all keep on fighting about what day it is and what Sunday is. Like, that's it. It's over. The mission is over. The mission is complete. I am the way. Just gotta believe, and that's it. And that,
right.
unfortunately, is still whether it's for eco, political, social control, it's still happening nowadays, where it's like more about an organization of the church versus the actual faith itself.
Correct.
Crazy.
It's really bad, you know. So I used to be like more religious, but then again, like I said, I saw a whole lot of evil. I saw a whole lot of lies. I saw a whole lot of manipulation within, like I said, organized religion. And when I went through all the health things, and like I said, the multiple deaths, the multiple rebirths, the multiple all the things, from finding myself, I found God, and when I found God, I found myself. And it was from within. Like it wasn't. I didn't go to a church, and no pastor came and mediated conversations with me. Like every single day, I talk to God, and God talks to me back very frequently. God source universe gives me the information that I need to live my life and help others for the highest good of all every single day. And that's what got me through everything that I went through. Again, while I was walking into several ambushes of spiritual warfare in the physical, in the form of white coats, it was God's source universe that gave me that strength, that kept me through, that fought for me, that protected me, that guided me, that gave me the advice and guidance that I needed. That's it.
I love that. Well, we're going to take one more commercial break. And when we come back, I got another snippet of you singing happy birthday and talking about your circumstance on your birthday from the hospital, going through your pain. And I also want to talk about some of your practices and what you do to help other people who have gone through the same circumstance. Stick with us. This is the Emmy Show. We'll be right back.
My name is Stashia, and I help people transmute their negative energy and experiences into something really positive and beautiful. Sometimes we just experience a lot of really negative, dark things in life that kind of keep us stuck. And then we go through things that can't be explained by a regular therapist, a doctor, a priest, a pastor. And that's kind of where I come in to fill the gaps and give you that clarity and guidance as to what's happening to you through this ascension process, a spiritual awakening that we call it. So if this is something that you are going through or that you're experiencing or would like to learn more about, you can visit my website at ascensionoraclev.com to learn more and book a session with me. I'll see you there. My name is Stashia, and I help people access their highest self, purpose, destiny, and timeline through transmuting their negative energy and experiences into positive ones. And if this sounds like something that could help you out or that you might be interested in, you can learn more about me and book a session at ascensionoraclev.com. I'll see you there.
That got me admitted to the hospital with C. diff, and I think that's what I have this time as well. It's just green and just awful. So
What goes through your mind when you hear and see that video?
April of 2021, and is a date. Obviously, I rattled it off super quick because it was literally a date that I didn't think I was ever going to come back from. It was a really tough time where I walked into a hospital and I thought that was going to be the last time that I saw my family. And I thought that was going to be the end of my life. Like I really felt like this was the death that I was not going to come back from.
Mm.
And so like that's what it makes me feel. It makes me immediately go back to April of 2021.
So let's talk about, if you had the opportunity to help anybody, or as you have been helping people who are going through the same circumstance, give us some of the things that you would recommend for somebody to do if they were going through this pain.
Number one, don't ever be in a situation where you are by yourself in a hospital and you don't have somebody else to physically be there to hear what doctors are saying, to vouch for you, to understand the entirety of a situation. Like in that situation, and in April of 2021, it was literally just me, and all I could do was record. And I would, if you're ever in that situation, do what I did and get your phone out and record every single thing. Even if you like nod off in between, whatever, please do your best to try to document every single thing that is happening to you, because it is going to be a lifesaver in the end. I hate saying it this way, but you don't understand the amount of really foul shit that has been done, that I have gone through and that I have experienced. And had I not been recording, honestly, there was a lot of things that a lot of people wouldn't have believed that I went through.
Yeah.
Please record, please document, please write things down. Again, if you can't have somebody there with you to vouch and to understand, record.
Tell us about Ascension Oracle V.
So the V thing is, again, from having 7 deaths and rebirths. So that is where you get the V's, being resuscitated and brought back to life 7 times. And Ascension Oracle, obviously being an oracle, being able to channel information from God's source universe and having the spiritual gifts and abilities that I have, is where I got the oracle thing. And obviously the ascension process is, guiding people from the 3D, or I call the abyss, the depths of hell. So coming out of like a lot of darkness, 3D, to the 4D of kind of being in the void space of acclimating to, you're not quite to your new life yet. You're not quite to your true divine self yet, but you're acclimating, much like if you scuba dive, you can't just go from the bottom and shoot all the way up. You have to very slowly rise back up to the surface. And that's kind of what like the ascension process is like. I try to help people get through. Then from 4D, you get to the 5D, and that's you living in alignment with your highest purpose, your divine self, walking and doing your soul purpose. And that's what I do. I help.
What should a person expect to experience from a process or a system or even results, assuming they are going through something as bad or similar and they would need to work with you? What should they expect from you?
It's not easy. Number one, I put that disclaimer out to everybody. I think everyone looks at me and they think like, oh, she just did some like magic spell or something, and now she's just the way that she is. And no, man, like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of introspection. So you can expect to, and this is exactly the reason why a lot of people also don't want to get into what's kind of called the redemption line, is because they know that the process of ascension is difficult. It requires you to go within and face your shadow self and look at the things that you have gone through and that you have just masked down, be it through drinking or drugs or sex or, all the things to keep whatever you have gone through or have happened suppressed. You have to unpack these things in the ascension process in order to come from the 3D to the 4D and to get access into the 5D or to the new earth. You have to go through the process of, I think it's like the metaphorical or proverbial judgment day, right? I think people think that you have to die in the physical to experience the judgment day. And again, here, kind of going back to what we've talked about with the religion thing, there's this misconception that like your judgment day comes when you die, and then some guy with a beard appears in you and is like, now can you tell me why on this day you did this? And then on here it looks like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but that's not it. In all actuality, it's really, again, I would know what it looks like is you going through isolation and going through the ascension process and having to sit with the things that you've done, unpack it, understand it, and feel the feelings that you have purposely tried to avoid dealing with by whatever means of drug of choice you have chosen, or whatever it is that you have chosen to not feel or deal with real world, with your life, with the circumstances.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Do you think the idea of the resurrection for humans or reincarnation or even coming back from a resuscitation is a privilege, is a game of luck? It's a specific circumstance that is just justified medically? How do you see it?
Like in general or in relationship
In general.
to me? I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a situation of whatever the divine has written within your blueprint, your soul's blueprint.
Do you think it's pre-written?
I think so. I think it's a thing of, if you are going through some sort of situation in your life, and say, again, in my experience, I had a near death, I had a death experience and they brought me back. If you had a situation that came through your life and you have not finished what you got incarnated here to do, you will be brought back, be it in this same lifetime or, like I said, in like a resuscitation situation. In some way, shape, or form, miraculously, you will continue where you left off, whether it be this current lifetime or you will reincarnate another lifetime to pick up where you left off. But that is a real thing. If you have a divine soul's purpose and mission that you have not completed, you will continue it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way, but it's fascinating. How can anyone, or specifically whomever sees that they are absolutely in need of what you do, how can somebody connect with you or book your services? Or
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm just Ascension Oracle V LLC, and then like I just have a book now button. You can message me or contact me there, and then also at my website ascensionoraclev.com. People can contact me there or get more information and learn about me and everything that I do. And my podcast as well is on there. It's Ascension with V. So all the resources and things are there and readily accessible. Should you feel the urge to dive deep into it. Let me tell you this before we wrap up, because this is mind blowing, and I haven't told you the story of it.
Yeah.
But there was a time when I was in the hospital. I think I was 18 years old, and I had, again, one of my gifts is being able to foresee. So I already knew what was to come in my life as far as how they were going to do me, and I just knew already at this point they weren't playing fair.
Mm.
And I was up against, it was me against hundreds of thousands. I went into the hospital and I had signed a do not resuscitate at 18 years old. I signed a DNR. I had them come in and give me the paperwork to legitimize it while I was in the hospital. And so that day forward, every time I was admitted into the hospital, which was like a month later, I came back admitted into the hospital after signing a DNR. And it was like 5 actual doctors and like 5 or 6 nurses came into my hospital room. Like it was like a what do they call it? An intervention, a united front. They came into my hospital room, and they have to put this like bright ass wristband on you that says DNR. And the nurse was like, so I told them, that you have a DNR, and I just, I wasn't comfortable with it. And so we're all here to tell you that we're not going to honor it. Like,
that's like a big no-no in the medical.
That's what I said. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What do you, I was like, the paperwork's, it's already done. And they were like, yeah, but no. So, because it was the same hospital, and they're like, so we're just going to get rid of it. Like, what do you mean? I was like, no, that's not gonna, they're like,
what was their reason for not honoring it?
The reason was you're too young and you have too much left here to do to stop now.
Listen, God sends angels in a very interesting looking
it was
way.
Really, not only that, but like, you know what I'm saying? From for the people that I had been battling up until this point to be those exact white coats, for them to be the ones that came in and were like, look, we're not gonna. And so they got rid of it, and they were like, listen, if you want to press charges,
well, that's what I'm getting at. Like,
they were all full well and ready to lose their jobs over not me no longer having that DNR. And had they not have done that, just a month later was a time when I had to be resuscitated, and I would not have been there.
Thank God. Well, I'm glad they didn't listen, and I'm glad you are here. Hey, any closing remarks as we are coming to the end of our show? We loved having you. We like to let you have the final remarks for our listeners, for anybody out there who may have lost hope, or anybody out there who's like, I am desperate and I want. What is your message to that person?
Just to not give up the fight. It's rough out here. Like, it is really rough. But please don't let this world take your light, take your love, take your heart, and take your soul, because it's very easy to do. And even if you don't have chronic illnesses, but just everyday life, it's rough. But there is always, always, always around the corner something that's going to bring you up and change your life if you just keep going. There was a lot of times where I wanted to stop and give up, but I always kept going because I knew somebody was watching me for inspiration, and there's somebody watching you for inspiration as well. Even if you don't know it yet, even if people aren't coming up and telling you like, hey, you're an inspiration, you are, and you're so worthy, and you're more than enough as you are right now. Please don't let this world convince you that you're not worthy and that you're not enough, because you are, and you're so loved. And that's it.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. She goes by the name of Stashia Jeanette Avery. I am her Tyrone, and I am so excited that I've had the privilege and the opportunity to share this incredible story with you. And please make sure you follow. Please make sure you subscribe. Make sure you opt in. Make sure you listen to her podcast, because she is a wealth of positivity, love, happiness, joy, abundance in every single way. And we are just blessed to start many collaborations with her like never before. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to you soon. Have a blessed day, everybody.
Hey, my name is Stashia Jeanette, and I help people access their highest self, purpose, destiny, and timeline through transmuting their negative energy and experiences into positive ones. And if this sounds like something that could help you out or that you might be interested in, you can learn more about me and book a session at ascensionoraclev.com. I'll see you there. My name is Stashia Jeanette, and I help people transmute their negative energy and experiences into something really positive and beautiful. Sometimes we just experience a lot of really negative, dark things in life that kind of keep us stuck, and then we go through things that can't be explained by a regular therapist, a doctor, a priest, a pastor. And that's kind of where I come in to fill the gaps and give you that clarity and guidance as to what's happening to you through this ascension process, a spiritual awakening that we call it. So if this is something that you are going through or that you're experiencing or would like to learn more about, you can visit my website at ascensionoraclev.com to learn more and book a session with me. I'll see you there. Peace.